maybe there's a big industry in that district, and so I think that the strategy is kind of interesting. I would have suspected before these campaigns started that there would be just more anti-Trump rhetoric fueling a lot of these campaigns, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Even Democrats are not fully embracing that strategy, and perhaps that's a smart thing to do in most places in the country that are, red states.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be very important for the Democrats to just see how they run it here, and it's going to be very important when people think of the Democrats not to associate with them with Russia and impeaching Trump. I mean, it's okay to associate with them as the party that's anti-Trump, but in my opinion, you got to have a substantial set of policies to come in and back that up. I think it's going to be very important down the road, and we'll see how that turns out in the midterm elections. But before we go here, we got about 10 minutes left on the show today, and I do want to get your take, Glenn, on Roseanne. ABC on Tuesday abruptly canceled the top-rated show Roseanne after a series of racist tweets by Roseanne Barr, bringing an end to one of Hollywood's boldest efforts to reach the red state viewers of in the Donald Trump era. So, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, I was surprised, first of all, that she was fired so quickly. I agree with the firing, but like I said, they fired her very quickly, and I guess that was good, because if advertisers started backing out of her program in the wake of the furor of her comments, and it took, say, ABC 2 weeks or so to finally fire her, that wouldn't have looked so good for the network or for Disney. So I think that it was pretty much a no-brainer, and I kind of wonder if some of her prior comments, like she's had a history of saying bad things, and I wonder if it was just, the straw that broke the camel's back. But, the interesting thing about this story is not just what Roseanne did, but what Samantha Bee did like a day later. And the kind of political back and forth and the narrative that compares the two.
Yeah. I mean, personally... go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I was going to ask you about that pretty soon. When she called former Barack Obama, in case you didn't already know, she called former Barack Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett an ape, pretty much, and she was fired almost instantly, whereas Samantha Bee called Ivanka Trump a feckless C-word for her seeming indifference about the breaking up of families. And that's another very interesting situation too, because it kind of represents the a conservative attempt at like overpowering the left, pushing really, really, really hard and trying to really get someone fired. As you know, and it wasn't really the case with Roseanne, because ABC just fired her before the story kind of came out. It was very quick. It was a very almost instantaneous reaction there, which you got to give them very much got to give them tons of credit for. But with Samantha Bee, she's not going to get fired. But I mean, do you think she should have been fired? Do you think it would have been good to like even out that political war there? Was what I'm wondering.
Well, you wouldn't do it for that reason. You pretty much have to fire her on what she said and how bad it was. That really should be the justification. And in this case, I think it was bad enough. Quite honestly, I was gonna give a joke here because I know I was going to be asked about it on your show. That she wouldn't use the F word to describe Ivanka Trump, which of course was feckless. But but I know this is cable television and they can get away with, certain words, but I mean, the C word is like the worst word. And to call the president's daughter that, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I realized that the context of her humor that's mixed with anger was a righteous thing. I mean, she was trying to, stop this terrible practice of families being separated at the border, and she was very righteous about that, and I applaud that. But the use of her language was completely inappropriate, and I think that's fireable enough just on that basis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally going to have to disagree with you here, but I do see where you're coming from. But in the end, like my thought is what the main thing is, we are getting to a point where it's just like things. There's a lot of the norms that we used to see on TV are kind of dying, and I think personally the main reason why I don't think Samantha Bee should have been fired for this was because she's had no history. I think the prior history with Roseanne was a major deal behind it, because ABC had to kind of hold their nose about it because her show was doing so well. And they revived her, even though she had said some racist tweets in the past. There was a long history of it. She's always been kind of a lunatic, and this kind of overstepped the bounds there. And that's why I think she should have been fired. Then you have Samantha Bee, who has a relatively clean record on this stuff, and she just used some bad language over an issue that I think is so morally reprehensible. I think you kind of have a duty to go back in that kind of way, because you don't have that really much of a power to do anything. Like, it's kind of an old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt me. I mean, in this case, words are not going to hurt her anytime soon, and I think that's very important, and I think it should be taken into account here, where, like, you got the words versus the actions, and who really has the power in this situation. And I think also history of Roseanne versus Samantha Bee is incredibly important to take into account as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a kind of a tough call. I'm kind of like on the fence about this.
Yeah.
But I'm a little more, on the side that she should have been fired. Which is tough for me to say because, I like her. I think she's funny. But then again, if you put yourself on the other side of the aisle and you're on the right, well, you can say Roseanne is really funny too, and she made a mistake and she apologized, and why isn't Samantha Bee? I mean, she apologized, but she didn't get fired. So anyway, I think it's a really interesting conversation, and I can understand both points of view.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing you got to do, to just come to an agreement there. And yeah, on that, we also saw some pretty crazy news this week. A lot of stuff going on, and the person who probably handled this whole situation the best was Valerie Jarrett, who was took the high road there. It's a teaching moment, which of course you got to give her a lot of respect for as well. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us today. We are out of time. And really appreciate you being with us. Thanks for all, of course, the good conversation that we have had. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that'll do it for Newsflash. We'll be back tomorrow. And don't miss tonight at 9, the return for the win.